What's up, everybody, to another review. This time we're taking a look at The Godfather, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, screenplay by Mario Puzo, based off his novel of the same name. The Godfather tells the meteoric rise of Michael Corleone from reluctant war hero to ruthless mafia kingpin. That's the overall premise of The Godfather. Let's talk about it. In the near 50 years of this movie's existence, it has garnered probably one of the most acclaimed and most just revered presence in the history of film, and for good reason. When you look at The Godfather, it is a cinematic classic. This movie is a near masterpiece to a lot of people. It set the standard for how to do a mafia movie. It set the standard for how to tell the rise of the tragic hero in a way. But looking past all the accolades of this movie and just looking at The Godfather just as a movie in general, I find it to be a damn good movie. I have some flaws with it, but overall, The Godfather, it does deserve all the accolades that it gets. So without further ado, I'm going to explain my pros, and I'm going to explain the few cons that I do have with this movie. But let's kick it off first with the pros, being the cast. Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, James Caan, Robert Duvall, John Cazale, Diane Keaton. This movie boasts probably one of the greatest ensemble casts of its time. Al Pacino as Michael Corleone gives an iconic and just outstanding performance. The evolution of his character is probably some of the best. It's probably some of the best stuff ever written for a single character. Seeing Michael Corleone as this war hero who's trying to assimilate into a normal life, while at the same time distancing himself from his family, from his crime family, and then being forced into the family due to events that take place that are out of his hands, and him eventually succeeding his father as the godfather of his family, is an outstanding tale of a tragic hero. And Al Pacino's performance throughout this entire film is absolutely mesmerizing. How he goes from pretty much this happy-go-lucky type of guy into this ruthless, cunning man is both outstanding and just horrifying all at once. And Pacino's performance is outstanding. No complaints whatsoever about Al Pacino as Michael Corleone. He's amazing. Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone, iconic performance, just like Pacino is. Vito Corleone is probably the most mimicked and most parodied character in the history of film, but Brando's performance as a whole is outstanding. I thought he was great in this movie. Like, some of my favorite scenes are the scenes that involve Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone. I love his chemistry with the majority of this cast. The scenes that he and Pacino have are really damn good, and their chemistry really shines as father and son. Same goes for James Caan and Marlon Brando. I like the fact that Vito has two distinct relationships with pretty much his two favorite sons, and he also has a little, but he also has like a little something with Fredo Corleone as well, who's played by John Cazale. Fredo more or less is the more or less dim-witted Corleone. He ain't as smart or as ruthless as Michael nor Sonny. He's pretty much just the middleman. He's just there. But he and Vito pretty much doesn't like belittle him or mistreat him. He still loves him as his son. But Fredo comes across more as like a driver than he does an actual boss. But the relationships that Brando has with the actors is outstanding, and his scenes are mesmerizing. The opening 20 minutes of this movie that take place during Talia Shear's character, Connie Corleone's wedding, is probably the best opening to any movie. Fantastic stuff, and it really captures the realism of an Italian family in a way. Fantastic stuff. Vito Corleone, one of the best characters in cinema, easily. James Caan's performance as Santino Corleone, Sonny Corleone, another great character. James Caan is really good at playing the hot-headed elder Corleone who takes power after a failed assassination attempt on his father's life. And I like Sonny Corleone. You can see the difference between Vito and Sonny. Like, Vito is someone who is stuck in the old ways, while Sonny, on the other hand, he wants to expand the empire in the new direction. And the new direction is the drug trade, the narcotics trade. Vito, he's still in the in the old ways of dealing with prostitution and gambling. Well, money's really to be made in the drug trade. Vito's against this, but Sonny's all for this. This is actually what leads to Vito's assassination attempt by the Salazzo d'Italia gang. They figure that if Vito is out of the picture, they can pretty much muscle Sonny into joining in the drug trade, and they pretty much want Vito's influence since he's really friendly with politicians and the police. So they just want Vito's protection while they do the drug ring, and of course Vito is nearly assassinated because of that, and then Sonny takes over, and I think James Caan's performance as Sonny is actually really good. His most famous scene is where he beats the living hell out of this character called Carlo, who is actually his sister's husband. And the reason why he beats the shit out of Carlo is because Carlo has been abusing his sister Connie. And this actually is what leads to Sonny's assassination after Carlo kind of rats Sonny out, and Sonny's killed because of it. But everything leading up to that, I thought James Caan puts on an awesome performance. He's great in this movie. John Cazale as Fredo, as I mentioned before, he's like the dim-witted version of the Corleone family. But Fredo more or less is like a public relations type guy. Like you can send Fredo out to a place like Las Vegas and have him become buddy with the people who run that place, and he can pretty much be like your spokesperson, so to speak. And I thought Cazale did a good job in the role. And some of the scenes that he has with Michael when Michael assumes power is some really good stuff, especially the stuff when Michael is trying to negotiate with Mo Green, and Fredo takes the side of Mo Green over Michael's side. You can see a little bit of the tension that develops between the two a little bit. It's good stuff. Like, Cazale was a very underrated actor for his time. I don't think he gets enough credit. So, stuff like that I enjoy. It's always good stuff. Diane Keaton, who plays Kay Adams, Michael's wife, and I thought she did a good job in the role as well. I think her character is really underutilized. We see her in the beginning, and then the entire middle, she just disappears because Michael goes into exile after he assassinates Salazzo and this corrupt police captain. The character of Kay just disappears off the face of the earth, and then she comes back in the third act when Michael returns from exile. Even though I think that middle section, she completely is forgotten about, and it's almost as if the other characters forgot she existed. But once she comes back, she miraculously appears again. I mean, that I wasn't too thrilled about, and it pretty much underutilizes her character a lot. I also think that the sections in Sicily, while they are good, I think they run a little way too long, and a lot of those scenes have a lot of padding. Also have a lot of padding to it. Like, for me, Michael's Sicilian scenes should have been more shortened. Established his relationship with Don Tomasino, who is pretty much the Don of Sicily. Establish his marriage to Apollonia, establish the assassination attempt on his life, which claims the life of Apollonia. You could have done all this in a maybe 10 to 15 minute section and not drag it out. I thought it was really dragged out, and it kind of brings the movie down a little bit. Not only that, I think a lot of scenes in this movie are really dragged out and they're prolonged, where if you could have chopped more, you could have gotten the point across more easily, and the movie would have had a much more better flow. But but that's just how I would have done it. Like stuff with Luca Brasi and him being killed by Salazzo and D'Italia. I mean, it's a very iconic scene, but I mean, Luca Brasi is a minor character who doesn't really mean much to the overall plot. He's very interchangeable. You could have put anyone in that scene, and it would have had all the impact and it would have had the same impact. So to me, like, even though the scene's iconic, you don't really need it. And Luca Brasi is kind of a throwaway character anyway in this movie. Well, his novel counterpart is actually the scum of the earth and a complete scumbag. If you'd have had Luca Brasi act the way he was in the novel, then his death scene would have been more of like a hell yeah type of moment. But instead, he just comes across in this movie as a very dim-witted, yet very loyal Corleone underling. And that's not to say the actor playing Brazzi does a bad job, because he doesn't. I just don't think his character in the overall grand scheme of things is worth it. That's just me personally. A character who I do think is worth it is the character of Tom Hagen, played by Robert Duvall, who is pretty much like an adopted son of Vito and adopted brother to Michael, Sonny, and Fredo. I thought Duvall puts on a really good performance as Consigliere. The chemistry he has with Brando and Michael works. I like the tension that develops between him and Michael after Michael kind of like forces Tom out of his position of Consigliere and has him just take care of legitimate businesses. You know, I like how there's a little bit of tension that goes on between that, and how Michael kind of undermines Tom a little bit. I thought all that stuff was good. I thought all that stuff was well handled. I like the scene where Tom goes to Hollywood to try and push this Hollywood producer into getting this character called Johnny Fontaine a role in the movie, but it doesn't work. And this leads to the infamous horse on a head, the head of a horse on the bed scene, which is great. So yeah, Duvall, he's another great character. Starling Hayden, who plays the corrupt police captain McCluskey, I thought he was good in his little role as well. And I like the fact that he's the one who roughs up Michael. And this leads to Michael shooting him and shooting Virgil Salazzo, who actually orchestrated the assassination on Vito's life. And that whole scene between Salazzo, McCluskey, and Michael is such a fucking great scene. It's so tension-fueled. Great stuff. All three of those actors were fantastic in that diner scene where Michael shoots them both. Awesome. That's actually what leads to Michael's exile. Beautifully, massively done. Oh man! Oh yeah. So from an acting and story standpoint, and from just overall iconic moments, this movie has it all. From a production standpoint, this movie has a beautiful documentarian style, gritty look and appeal to it. The cinematography is great. Francis Ford Coppola's direction is top notch and on point. He's on his game. This is when Coppola was firing on all cylinders, and this is when he was really starting to take over the world as a top notch director. The Godfather really showcases the talent that Francis Ford Coppola has. And from a cinematography and direction standpoint, this movie's fantastic. No complaints on that front whatsoever. So yeah, there's obviously a lot more to talk about with The Godfather. Like there's the stuff with Tessio and Clemenza. You know, with Tessio, played by Ava Goda, who betrays Michael, and after Tessio has been very loyal to the Corleone family. I thought his final scene was great. I thought Ava Goda gave a very sincere and sympathetic performance in his final 5 minutes of screen time. I thought stuff was great too. And they got Clemenza, who's there for more or less some comedic relief, but he also has some memorable scenes to himself, like where they kill this character Paulie, and he's like, ditch the gun, grab the cannoli. That's fun stuff. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. To me, the most violent scene is Sonny's death. He gets torn to shreds. That's another thing I like this movie. Like the violence in this movie is realistic, and it stays with you. It's so iconic. So yeah, there's a lot more to talk about with The Godfather. Those are just my overall thoughts. When all is said and done, I'm gonna give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. It is near perfection. Despite my few flaws, I have no complaints on this movie whatsoever. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for The Godfather. Well, let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.